All right. Thank you for joining, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. Excited to bring some industry-leading experts, OEMs, and service providers together for an exciting chat about a partnership that we have recently launched. I'll go ahead and let the panelists introduce themselves. I'll serve as the moderator, Greg Samuels, 20-year veteran of CBTS. And I'd like to offer up an order of introductions, how you are and your technologies are perceived in the market as a leader, and what your technology brings to the partnership. So first, I'd like to introduce Arez from Check Point. Arez?
Greg, thank you very much. I'm Arez Yarkoni, and I'm the Vice President for Cloud and the Telco or the Service Provider vertical at Check Point. I'm a veteran of telco operations, was a CIO for a couple of telcos, and of ISVs and building software and selling into. Check Point really is a leader in security. The number one thing we do is security, and we do it very well. Actually, we do it the best, and it's 360 security. So we will secure anything from what you traditionally know as gateways and firewalls all the way to endpoints, to cloud, to remote users, and so on and so forth. We've got the entire portfolio, very rich portfolio. But really what we do the best in all of it is actually threat prevention, threat extraction, zero-day protection, those kind of things. So we are a leader in securing your organization. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Rez. Next, I'd like to introduce Mark from VMware SD-WAN powered by VeloCloud. Mark, can you give us a brief summary of how VMware is perceived in the SD-WAN market, as well as what your technology brings to this partnership?
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, my name is Mark Vandenkamp. I'm the VP of Product in the Networking and Security Business Unit here at VMware. Our solution, the VMware SD-WAN by VeloCloud, is our offering. VeloCloud was actually founded by Sanjay Upal, Ajit Maya, Steve Wu back in November of 2012. Their vision was really to reinvent the WAN, and they were very, very successful in actually defining the term SD-WAN, and they drove a lot of the market requirements from the very beginning. They launched the first solution in July of 2014. VMware acquired us in December of 2017, and we are broadly recognized as the leading SD-WAN vendor in the market. So again, like Arez, appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Okay. Greg may have broken down on us.
Yeah, I don't know if Mike.
Oh, it looks like we may have lost Greg.
Yeah, so John, you go.
I think I might be back. Am I back?
Oh, you're back.
You're back.
I just had a crash, and I didn't know if it was on my end or Mark's end. So I apologize. I should have probably made sure my 17-year-old wasn't gaming during this call. That might be the issue. John, I don't know where we were, but I'm going to ask you, as his leading service provider at CBTS, how are we taking the technology brought by the industry leaders, VMware and Check Point, and delivering it as a service offering to our customer base? If you could go ahead and take a brief minute or two to talk about what we bring to the table.
Yeah, thanks, Greg, and thanks for proving that we're live today. Really appreciate that as well. So, John Lloyd, I'm the Director of Cloud Networking for CBTS, and really boil down a few things. One is we are a true customer advocate. So when we look at what did we bring to the table, Mark went through the history of kind of VeloCloud and the journey to get to VMware. In our standpoint, we were the first service provider to get to market with VeloCloud. We're the first service provider to go to market with Check Point. We bring engineering, we bring research, we bring market research, and all of that to the table. So we don't ask our customers to be at the bleeding edge. We don't ask our customers to fall for marketecture, right? We really look for the architecture. And what are those benefits? The other thing is we don't ask our customers to sacrifice, superiority or best in breed for simplicity. And so a lot of times you'll have customers that will maybe go down a full stack with one particular provider or one particular service provider. My service provider, it makes the most sense to have provider X because all of my sites are on network, or because they're providing internet or MPLS today, right? What we really want to do is unhandcuff you, be able to bring the best connectivity, to bring the best SD-WAN, to bring the best security, and not have to have the same logo or vendor on all of those different components, allowing you to choose best in breed without having to sacrifice complexity of managing all of these different things. We put a simple wrapper, and then we put that into a utility model. So you have a fixed operational expense. You don't have to budget for capital. Obviously, what we're going through right now in 2020 shows that capital is not exactly easy to come by all the time for businesses. And so having a predictable spend and a reliable partner, we think is a big differentiator in taking these great technologies and bringing them to the marketplace.
All
Did we
right.
lose Greg?
I appreciate it. I appreciate the introductions. I've killed my video, but you should have my audio. Hopefully I don't crash and we can continue. So thank you for that. I like it to be known that we are answering the Q&A panel. So if the audience has any questions to ask of our experts, I will be moderating that Q&A panel. So just go ahead and leverage the Q&A chat functionality through the Zoom client. But I'll first kick it off with some questions and I'll direct it to the panel. We've seen the network edge has been transformed over the past few years. John, can you give us a scenario of how the edge access and edge security have changed over the past few years, and how our customers are adopting new edge technologies?
Yeah, so every webinar, it feels like I'm on these days, SASE comes up, right? It's a hot button phrase, the Secure Access Service Edge. And I stop and think, I step back, what was 6 years ago, 7 years ago, what was the edge, right? The edge was my data center, my office, my branch. And so we have to first understand that where the edge is located has changed, and defining what is secure has changed, right? Security used to be stopping bad guys from getting in. Now we're talking about things like identity awareness, because the secure edge, the edge has literally moved to the cloud the same way applications do. So when we start talking with customers about this evolution to SASE, the big shift or the big change, my applications can now live anywhere in the world. My employees can work from anywhere in the world. And so how do I deliver a reliable connection to that edge? And then how do I secure it? So I think the big shift is really this idea of performance is mission critical. No longer, we used to say, if you can connect, it works. Now, if you connect and it's not fast, if it's slow, it doesn't work. And so that for me has been the big shift as we look at the SASE model. Where does the application live? Where does the employee live? And then, we're partnered with VMware SD-WAN powered by VeloCloud and Check Point, because we've got to answer two questions when we do that. And that's, how do I ensure reliable performance of that application? And then how do I secure not only the application, but the end user?
Rez, from your lens, how do you see the edge access and edge security transforming over the past few years?
So in similar way to what John said, right? The edge used to be your branch, and what you needed to do is move capabilities you had in some central office to a place where it's the branch and you wanted the same capabilities. So you basically made sure you can connect them to the same connectivity that the central office had and give them the same application, same access, same capabilities. And then it became potentially some users that work from home, but again, it was a little bit of the same approach of I got to give them the same. Then the edge completely exploded, meaning we added applications that don't reside from the central office or from your data center, right? They come as a software as a service applications and so on, or the organizations deployed applications on public clouds or in other locations. So now even the edge of the enterprise is different, and therefore definitely the edge of the users. It just all exploded. And now you're looking at a scenario where at any given access point that a individual, or maybe in the future a machine, needs to execute a job or to work, there's multiple paths to applications, data, and so on that they need to get to. And all those paths need to be secure. in order to protect the organization. And that, I think, is the big change in the edge. The multiple paths and the different ways to get there, or the different policies, is the SD-WAN story. But the security has to come across everything. And then if you look at just what happened to us in the last 5 months, just statistically, if you were going to go after the remote user that now belongs to the edge 6 months ago, if you went after home people working from home, you may have hit, 1 in whatever people that really work from home on meaningful data. 6 months later now, everybody's working from home on meaningful data. So maybe your attack, return on attack is much higher if you're an attacker. Now you got to secure a different edge. So it's constantly moving. I think that SD-WAN is a critical path, especially cloud-delivered SD-WAN. The complexity has tremendously increased. So putting it in the hands of a CBTS to provide it as a managed service is probably most likely only outcome for certain organizations to be able to really manage it properly. And then adding, world-class security like Check Point that can really do prevention and extraction, and you're not cleaning up after the fact, you're preventing it before it's happening, is incremental value to the fact that a managed service can prevent problems from you and not just clean up, and to the automation level required with the speed, velocity, and volume, meaning the edge, how big it is now, of where you need to protect.
Thank you, Rez. Mark, finally, would you like to add anything to what John and Rez has said about edge access and edge security?
Yeah, I definitely would. So I just maybe build a little bit on top of what John had discussed earlier about SASE. So, SASE, at least the security part of it, has evolved to really address a concept that the market has broadly labeled as zero trust. And with zero trust, you're basically making this assumption that the perimeter is dissolved. There is no perimeter anymore. What used to be trusted behind the perimeter, since it's not there anymore, there's nothing can be trusted. And you really do need that identity and the context about the person or the user or the device before allowing access. So zero trust has definitely influenced how edge access and edge security is being deployed moving forward. On the access side, with SD-WAN, early on, it was really about providing an edge component that could be basically deployed at the branch office and then at the data center. But that changed because applications started moving into the cloud, and VMware and our SD-WAN solution was actually the first solution in the market to provide a cloud gateway, basically that on-ramp to IaaS, an on-ramp to SaaS, and as an on-ramp to web applications. And another fundamental component of SD-WAN is just that ability to orchestrate the WAN as a SaaS service. So edge access has evolved, and so has SD-WAN, just to deal with the different types of applications. On the user side, what used to be a primary concern was just providing that branch office connectivity. But with COVID and the pandemic, it's actually accelerated what we call work from office, work from home, and work from anywhere. So when we look at providing an access solution, it's not only about bringing branch office users into the WAN and giving them effective access to applications. It's now about taking users at home. Maybe Greg could use one of our boxes since he's having a few problems, but it's about bringing those types of users and giving them an optimized application experience. And then those users leave the home. They're working from anywhere. They need that same sort of on-ramp. So with respect to apps in the web, the SD-WAN solutions have evolved to not just provide that connectivity to the data center, but it's also evolved to provide that connectivity to cloud security, like Check Point's CloudGuard solution. So very, very important partnership that we have with Check Point is solving that cloud-based security model. So So SASE, just like John said earlier, it's that convergence of SD-WAN, it's that convergence of security, and that's really why we're here today.
Thank you. And that leads me to my next topic. So we've seen the evolution of networks at the edge where we used to connect buildings to data centers. Now we're connecting users to their applications as efficiently as possible. How can we provide for superior application performance while not sacrificing security in this new age of distributed cloud networking? So John, I'd like to go with you first again, if you would.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. So I think the first thing to understand when you look across the network and you look across application performance, is the saying of a chain is only as strong as its weakest link. That's going to apply here. So we're going to have to think about what is the path to get there. And Mark hit on the gateways of VeloCloud and why that's so important and why they were our go-to SD-WAN solution. Most SD-WAN, it's all predicated under the idea of understanding path A and path B, right? A bookend of how it's performing. Well, that's a big challenge when the application lives out in the cloud. And we talked about IaaS and PaaS, but what about SaaS models? What about a distributed architecture that's doing a geo lookup based off of an IP, right? So I'm going to Salesforce. I might go to Salesforce 10 straight times and end up in a different location every time, a different target IP. And so there's two things we really have to understand. The first is not only how our path's performing, and what we're able to do with VMware SD-WAN powered by VeloCloud is take that path not from our branch to our data center, but all the way from our branch, our data center, our work from home offering, and connect that to the cloud distribution networks where those applications sit. Now, the next piece is, so if we understand on the VMware SD-WAN powered by VeloCloud side, we understand path A and B, and then maybe we only have path A, or maybe both A and B are performing poorly. And that's some of that packet duplication and the DMPO routing. And Mark joked about being able to deliver video, right? In your case, Greg, that's an important thing as we move to work from home. But the next component of it is all of that's great. But one of the things we found, especially in March, April timeframe, when the entire world went to work from home, is that security was still living in the data center. Security was still a hardware-defined appliance that was limited by ingress, egress of internet into my data center. So I sent 1,000 people home, and those 1,000 people came over a single internet pipe into my data center to hit a firewall, to go back out that same internet pipe, to go to an application that was out on the cloud distribution networks. And so I'm losing the benefit of what VeloCloud's giving me. And that's where I talk about the weakest link in the chain. You've created a path that's taking security not in line and at the edge, but really to be an extra hop unneeded in the network, and also breaking the protection point. So what we want to do, and I don't want to steal thunder from Erez and Mark about how these technologies come together to do it, but the challenge, the goal, what we're looking for with a application is protecting it from site to cloud from a performance standpoint, and then introducing a security layer to keep the bad guys out. So I'm protecting performance. Now, how do I protect security without adding a ridiculous amount of latency or adding out-of-band hops that are going to add to poor application performance?
Thank you, John. Erez, would you like to add on to that, please?
John kind of put it all in a nice envelope for me. So I think what I'm going to add in there is, what's going on is now you have to basically have security on each one of these paths. And what you want to do is have the best, if not exactly the same security in each one of these paths. So if you assume that the security that was back in your data center, or back, as John described, you took it over your MPLS line to where you do security in your gateways, that's where you had the most horsepower for security and you provided the best security. You want to now be able to provide the same type of security on a different path that doesn't go there. And that's where the technology is important. And that's where things that Check Point does is really superior. So two things: we invested tremendously in reducing the footprint of basically what would be your next generation firewall, next generation security appliance that allows you to do prevention and extraction. We reduced that footprint to be able to live in multiple places, live in a virtualized environment in the cloud, or even live in a virtualized component inside an appliance, a Velo appliance. The second is, by definition, our technology relies on something we call threat cloud, which is a 80 billion transactions a day cloud infrastructure that looks for zero-day attacks and other types of threat prevention opportunities. So we are able to provide that security anywhere by just simply connecting and updating our security agents from the cloud. And finally, we allow you to do it uniformly across all your ends, so even at an endpoint. That is kind of the value add that we add here. So above and beyond just solving your SD-WAN needs and edge needs, together with Velo and CBTS, we can solve all the needs, even at your endpoint needs, which I think is kind of an exciting roadmap for everybody that's buying into this.
And Mark, you know, at VMware, you have, in my opinion, a unique story when it comes to your cloud gateway and your application performance. Could you maybe address that as well as how VMware has developed a product and software that does give a superior application performance?
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, our definition of SD-WAN, which we actually drove in the market, is primarily based on providing low latency and secure connectivity to users and apps. So, as you mentioned, we basically have a gateway component that is optimized to basically be within, let's say, 10 milliseconds of 80% of the world's metropolitan and urban areas. So basically where your users are at. Our cloud gateway, it's also designed to be within 5 milliseconds of all the major cloud service providers. So that low latency connection, you know, optimizes the application performance. And you know, the secure connectivity basically gives you comfort in that there's a layer of security in our SD-WAN. At VMware, we have, and in our business unit, we have what we call the VeloCloud. And one of our VeloCloud priorities is really executing on our vision of a self-healing LAN and WAN. So earlier this year, we acquired Nianza, and Nianza is going to help us basically provide that visibility, not only into the performance of the application over the WAN, but they're also giving us that visibility into how the performance of the application is performing over the LAN. So when there are application problems, you can basically get that complete visibility, which, you know, is going to help our customers basically troubleshoot and remediate these delivery problems. So definitely think that we're unique in the market, and our SD-WAN solution, being software defined, you know, helps us there.
Awesome, thank you, gentlemen. So, John, we've taken two leading OEM and SaaS providers, and VMware and Check Point, and we are introducing to the market a service provider offering. What is the value that you see combining these two leaders in delivering the service that we offer at CBTS?
Yeah, so we always joke, and it's true, but we tell customers, you know, I don't sell yes as a service, or I can't be everything to everybody. And what we like about bringing together these two OEMs and being the best at what they are, it allows us to offer a complete solution to the customer, but also it doesn't stretch VMware out of what it's good at, and it doesn't stretch Check Point out of what it's good at. And oftentimes, when we talk with customers and they say, I'm looking at this technology or that technology because they can offer the whole stack, my response is always, good. Which are you willing to sacrifice? Are you willing to sacrifice security for SD-WAN? Are you willing to sacrifice SD-WAN for security? Are you willing to sacrifice, you know, edge compute for switching or for wireless, right? So what we really like about it is that we want to bring to market the best SD-WAN. Well, Gartner's going to tell you that that's VMware SD-WAN powered by VeloCloud. And we want to bring together the best security. And again, Gartner and NSS Labs and the Threat Cloud 100% catch rate, it's all going to tell you it's Check Point. And so what we get to do with our customers is come in and build a customized network. So we are deployed in over 30 countries today, managing networks with VeloCloud SD-WAN. We have over 560 unique customers deployed in 30 countries, and we're doing the same thing with Check Point. We can do this globally. And that architecture, those two things lend hand in hand. The gateway architecture of VeloCloud and the gateway architecture of CloudGuard Connect allows us to deliver that network where I talked about inline performance and inline security anywhere in the world. The other thing, and I think I'll leave it for Erez because he hit on it a little bit earlier, but that's the ability to understand customers have different security profiles. And so maybe you're protecting the home user, meaning I'm always in my office. This is a physical brick and mortar building. But maybe I'm the roaming user, travel resumes someday, and I'm working from hotels or from the coffee shop. Maybe I'm in a branch, maybe I'm in a data center, and I've got all these different security needs. So for us, we understand with VeloCloud, we can put a VNF right on the edge from Check Point with their CloudGuard Edge, or protect the roaming user with CloudGuard Connect. For us, that's the excitement, is they're both focused on being the best at what they do and not worried about expanding out of their comfort zone. They stay in their lane and execute. So everything they bring to market is at the top level. It's not having to sacrifice one for the other. And our customers, when they're willing to sacrifice, it's because it gives them more ease of one vendor, one number to call for support, one TAC. CBTS puts a wrapper around all of this, so it's still the same thing. You're utilizing our customer-facing instance of ServiceNow for ITSM tools, for incident management. It's one number to call for support. It's our engineering teams, and then it's TAC behind that. So we put that same ease of wrapper, but no longer does the customer have to choose what they're willing to sacrifice.
Yeah, and Erez and Mark, I'll turn to you and see if you have anything to add about the partnership of combining your product sets and your services along with us as a service provider. I'll offer you that time to do that.
Okay, I'll jump in and I'll kind of reverse it. I think that CBTS is the one that brings the customer experience excellence to something that otherwise would be hard to deliver that level of excellence by the customer themselves. Now, there's certain customers that are super sophisticated customers and have capabilities and can say, I can take a checkpoint and a Velo and operate it all myself, and I have all the people to monitor and upgrade and run the policies into the management of both environments. And for my users, it will look like a zero-touch experience. But it really is a handful of these customers in the world. And if you want to get that type of experience and excellence out of two great products that fill, a certain gap of what the total need is, in order to get the full excellence in the experience, you need somebody that is actually has experience and excellence in the operation of these products, both in the setup and in the ongoing operations. Now, security is a constantly moving problem. So is SD-WAN, right? It's constantly learning, constantly adapting to what's going on. Security, definitely the attacks are changing. The bad guys are not stagnant. And having a partner that can take a great product that can do all of it, but operate the products in a manner that to an organization, they don't have to become experts in it, and it becomes almost like a zero-touch experience. That's the big value add. That is what makes eventually real value out of the joint experience, because otherwise you don't have a choice. You have to compromise to something that compromises your SD-WAN and your security, but just give you simplicity in the operations. If you take the operation on yourself, you don't want to take that compromise. You want to turn to partners like CBTS. And at Check Point, we actually recognize it. So we always go through partners, but there's certain partners that have above and beyond capabilities like CBTS that we invest highly in, and partners like Velo that have above and beyond products that we invest very heavily in our R&D integration with. So we'll solve even things like HA inside a Velo appliance at the edge, right? Which is a complicated thing to solve, and we know, and just the two of us solve it together. Mark, over to you. Sorry.
All right. Yeah, I think here again, like to reemphasize, CBTS is basically your trusted advisor. That entity that allow you to basically bring these two components together and make sure that you have a great experience. Maybe just dig a little bit deeper into maybe some of the value points that I see out of a combined solution like this. So number one is just cost. One of the advantages of SD-WAN is that you don't necessarily need the expensive circuits to connect users to applications. Granted, you'll want those on the data center side, but on the user side, you basically have flexibility. quality and performance in the connection, we offer this capability that we call a dynamic multipath optimization. So if there is a problem in the circuit or a problem in the internet connection, we have the ability to provide an optimized circuit, a virtual circuit or an overlay, and the application is delivered in a performant way. Visibility, I talked about that a little bit earlier. Here again, diagnosing problems either in the LAN or the WAN. Agility in this world where we now have people basically moving out of the office and moving to home. We've got customers that have literally deployed thousands of our edge devices within a period of a week or two. And the reason that we can do that is it's basically done through a zero-touch provisioning process, super simple. An end user, even my wife, could probably deploy one of our edge devices. So get that predictable and consistent security. So, in a world where you have thousands of endpoints, one of the problems that can get introduced and one of the problems that CBTS will help you provide is that predictable and consistent security via automation in our two solutions. With our solution, we give you these out-of-the-box business and application security policies, basically helping you to determine how your business applications will perform over the WAN. I know a lot of our customers leverage, those policies, just as we deliver them. And then ultimately, just as Arez talked about earlier, the combined solution gives you that flexibility in how you deploy security services. So as he referenced earlier, we work very closely with Check Point to basically make sure that their virtual network function can run right on our edge, so it can be deployed in that footprint. And then you also have the combination of these services being delivered from the cloud. So CBTS, here again, trusted advisor, bringing in two different solutions and giving you that great customer experience.
Thank you. CBTS reigning partner of the year for VeloCloud, just to remind the audience. Shameless plug there. Just a reminder, the Q&A is still open for you to ask questions. We've got a couple here, and I just maybe want to recommend some groupthink here to the panel. First one, what types of customers should be considering these technologies? Are we talking multinational globals can only take advantage of this? Are we talking, a 3-node, 4-node, 5-node network? So maybe some groupthink around what customer base can leverage this technology.
Yeah, I can.
John, maybe you go. Yeah,
jump into that one. So I think you led me to the answer, which is great. We have customers, who again are deploying tens of thousands of edge devices. These could be customers, like retail, customers that are providing storage, basically where there's just lots of remote offices. So you can get into the verticals like that, and where security is an important element, and definitely deal with those. Can also deal with smaller enterprises. Maybe it's a headquarters and maybe some remote branch offices. Doesn't necessarily have to be in the tens of thousands. So we have a lot of customers who do small, basically proof of concept deployments. They start out small, and then they gradually grow their deployments over time. So I think the combination of the two solutions, being cloud delivered, having flexibility of where the security services are deployed, basically addresses big to small.
And I'll add for CBTS side, we utilize these services. We have Fortune 50 customers globally on the VeloCloud network. We also have and operate, I think that you might know better than me, Greg. The last number I saw, I think we're up to about 900,000 handsets globally for UCaaS that we host. We bookend that with VeloCloud because we understand how important that real-time application is. So we have VeloCloud partner gateways that sit in front of our voice cores. So maybe it's a single one-site, really important call center. Maybe it's just a five handset customer, but wants a great voice quality experience. So it really can be all over the board. One of the things that I think Mark hit on just recently was the flexibility, and especially with work from home. So what we did overnight, we had this challenge, and I talked with a customer, and they said, we closed 70 offices across the country. And I said, well, you didn't close 70 offices, you opened 1,200 new ones, because those 1,200 employees now just went home. And so in those 70 offices, they had diverse routes built in, and they had fiber connectivity with SLAs, and they had all these contingency plans. And now they're sitting on a coax or DSL, maybe, if you're lucky, GPON reliability of networks, but you're also competing with kids playing video games and Netflix. And so now all of a sudden my call center is competing with Netflix, and it's competing with Disney Plus in my house, right? So these are all the challenges that we all of a sudden said, wow, we've got to solve this. And that's where Velo came in, and we productized, let's do this VeloCloud 510 LTE, which is integrated LTE into the box. And so what we're doing there, Mark mentioned the dynamic multipath optimization. We're going to take an application like voice, like a video conference, and we're going to make it reliable over that poor performing congested best effort link. But we also know that in the home environment, we have distribution boxes at the end of streets and in major intersections. And we know landscaping crews are out and trenching 6 inches exactly, and please don't go any deeper than that. And we can have downtime in our home networks. And this can be for 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours. That's a problem, because our mission critical business is now being conducted from home. And so we include that LTE plan. So not only are we enhancing your first circuit with this, but we're bringing a second circuit into every employee's home with the VeloCloud 510 LTE. The next challenge that we had was, that's great, but all of it's coming back into my data center. And so we created a path forward. There's 2 things we did with VeloCloud aside from all of that protection. The first one is utilizing those gateways as a layer 3 device in the network. And so we had several customers who weren't with us on VeloCloud yet, right? What we would call future customers. We were able to build a VPN tunnel from a VeloCloud gateway to their data center. And then I can hang as many home offices off of that as I want. So all of a sudden, to get end users connected back into the data center, it was one tunnel being built, as opposed to however many home users I had needing static IPs and all of that. And the other component is, well, how do I secure it? And that's where the Checkpoint CloudGuard Connect came in. So we look at a customer that maybe didn't have VeloCloud today and didn't have Checkpoint today, and literally overnight, we were able to stand up thousands of home employees to get the same reliability of the call center that had diverse circuits, and the same security of the Checkpoint data center, and the same reachability back to private applications in the data center without the complexity of having to stand it up. So those 2 partnerships really allowed us to be agile and to be responsive to whatever comes next.
Yeah.
Thank you. I thought I was on mute when I yelled throughout the house to get off of Netflix, but apparently I wasn't.
It was. I'll add maybe just the last thing. I think there are 2 very exciting things happening here. One, all of this is being delivered from the cloud, right? Collective cloud, the VeloCloud, the public cloud, the Checkpoint cloud, the infrastructure that Cbts provides as basically a multi-tenant hyperscale infrastructure, which is a cloud as well. And that allows us to, over time and even today already, completely change the cost structure of what's being delivered to customers. The second is the security and the capabilities that Velo brings and Cbts patches all together, or puts it all together. No, I wouldn't say patch, they actually put a great solution around the security, and that is delivered through that based on software. So it's all software based. Why are those important? Because it democratizes the capability. It allows now, just as an example, if you were a 10-firm architect company that worked together and collaborated in an office and everything, and it's heavy files and it's collaboration and it's so on, and now you have to work from home or on the road or whatever it is that it moved, what COVID did to accelerate, right? Now, like John said, you're working not from one office. All of a sudden, you became an enterprise with 10 offices. We had 10 offices of important usage and so on. But to be able to bring that type of capability, it has to be cloud delivered and software delivered in order for it to be still affordable for a 10-person architecture firm. right? And in order to even operate it in a 10-person architecture firm, there is no dedicated security guy. There probably isn't even a dedicated IT support, right? So to even be able to operate it at the complexity scale and that requires today to both do the multipath, the multi-network, and all the security, you got to have a partner like CBTS. So we are now able to take this type of solution and deliver it basically to all segments of customers, where before it was reserved to only, let's say, rich customers.
Excellent. Mark had mentioned proof of concept. So we have a question here. Do you offer proof of concepts or proof of values? So, being that the edge has transformed and this has been a disruptive technology over the last couple of years, normally customers might want to see it in their environment to believe it. So John, I'll pose it to you to bring these three partners together, or two partners and us together. What does a proof of concept look like? And do you offer one?
Yeah, great question. So, and I know both, on the Check Point side and the VMware side, they offer and facilitate, proof of concept as well. We think this is a unique opportunity for us. So the first thing is, because it's cloud-based, and if you keep hearing these same themes over and over again, but it's not try and buy gear, right? It's not put it in your data center, run some tests against it, beat it up, and then send us back the gear. That's what we're used to in the hardware-defined world. Now we have an opportunity to non-invasively run proof of pilots or proof of concepts, production pilots in your network, because I can easily stand up. We're actually doing one. I mentioned our work from home solution. We just stood up for a major hospital yesterday, a proof of concept for their work from home. I was shipping out 6 Velo 510 LTEs and standing up the Check Point licenses, right? It allows me to scale up and scale down because it's always there and on demand, and I just decide when I want to consume it, right? And so that makes it easy for me as a partner, as a service provider, to deliver it, because I don't have to make huge investments and keep, what we would call inventory gear sitting on the shelf waiting for that. The next thing that we do, so the short answer is we produce proof of concept and we support those. We do 60-day, $0 proof of concepts, and we've done well over 100 of them. And it's a 99.2% success ratio is what CBTS touts from our proof of concept program. The next phase, though, to understand when we start talking about the proof of concept, we have an entire team dedicated to it. And so what we find is a lot of folks say, I want to do a bake-off, or I want a proof of concept. How do we actually turn that into meaningful data? And so we have a pre-built approach that identifies what are the customer's goals and outcomes, what are they hoping to achieve or prove, what are the concepts, how are we going to prove it, how are we going to test it, right? We keep talking about VeloCloud can make unreliable connectivity reliable. Well, how do we prove that? How do we get unreliable connectivity, right? These are all things that driving what we would call a guided proof of concept. And then to come back to, we do this all co-managed. So CBTS, and Erez mentioned, you probably don't have an army of network engineers, right? IT is a cost center for a lot of enterprises or smaller organizations. For service providers, that kind of talent, that's revenue generation. So we bring together those smart folks, we bring together eyes on glass, but we don't want to take away. You might have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, right? Depending on the size of your organization, you may have incredibly talented folks. You just don't have 50 of them. And so we want to co-manage it with you. And so on our VMware SD-WAN powered by VeloCloud, on our Check Point CloudGuard Connect, we do it as co-managed through the POC process, through deployment. We're bringing our guidance and we're giving you back your nights and weekends. But if you still want to log in, you have the ability to do so. If you never want to touch it, we got it from there, and with some of the stuff with Nianza coming, you won't even need to open tickets because of the self-healing. So yes, we support POCs, and we really drive, the reason we put a wrap around it is to make them as meaningful as possible, and we have an entire team from project management to engineering to help successfully deliver those.
Yeah. And if I think about it, if I would have had to think of this problem as a customer, I think a proof of concept is required and expected, because when I bought an appliance, I kind of knew I needed one for my data center. So it wasn't a proof of concept. I just wanted to test whether what you're saying works. So it was a proof of spec. Here, there's a value proposition proposed that is not obvious to the end customers yet and unfortunately, if it is obvious, it's probably a horrible experience already for them. whether they have problems in their operations from getting to the network and the applications, or they had even worse security problems and got breached, or something got stolen, and so or ransomware or whatever. So we have to sell the value proposition. And from a customer perspective, I think the way to prove to a customer the value proposition is through a proof of concept. So obviously we support it, but to deliver it, you need a CBTS, because you need to deliver the experience, not the product. And so I'm glad that you guys are together in our solution. We're offering a proof of concept.
Excellent, thank you. Well, John, I've got a question here. It's probably best directed to you. You've mentioned edge internet connectivity and LTE. Are those services you also provide as a part of your service offering?
Yeah, great question. So it can be, right? We firmly believe, and this is one of the things when we go out and talk with customers, what differentiates us from other service providers that may have the same partnerships as us. We think, first off, SD-WAN in general allows the seamless utilization of two circuits, right? So it allows me to first turn down expensive MPLS or expensive DIA, maybe not at all sites, as Mark said, my data centers, maybe large corporate HQ, I'm going to want SLA driven, fiber circuits. But the first concept is I can go and get two broadband providers at a lower rate and higher bandwidth than my expensive dedicated. So right there, a single carrier approach goes out the window. The second is I even can plug in a third, and that can be LTE driven. And so that can help keep my costs down, especially when you talk retail. I talked to a retailer, they said we have 4,000 sites. For me to get a second internet connection, even if it's only $80 a month, that's multiplied times 4,000. That's a very expensive insurance policy. So LTE, whether it's a second link or a tertiary link, that's a big benefit that VeloCloud brings, is you can use LTE as a secondary link in a standby state because they're able to enhance traffic over a single link versus other SD-WAN that maybe require two. But we also, as we understand, you should go and get multiple links. Maybe you don't want to. Maybe the business case doesn't support it, especially at smaller sites. SD-WAN unhandcuffs you from the carrier. Transport is agnostic, it's a commodity. I'm going to create an overlay across whatever that underlay is. And so no longer do you have to go and get carrier A because they're the only one, they have the most of your sites, or you want a single bill. So CBTS does offer bandwidth aggregation and LTE aggregation across North America. We will bring bandwidth. We already have dedicated internet practice. We are an MPLS provider as well. But we offer you the ability to go and get whoever the CLEC is, whoever the ILEC is, whoever your cable co is. We'll source it for you. We'll monitor it for you. We'll manage it for you, and we'll give you a single bill. But we also understand the value proposition of SD-WAN is freedom from the conglomerate telco. So if you don't want us to go and source it, that's fine. You've already got it. You can handle it on your own, or we'll do letter of agency. Please keep your circuits, but if you want eyes on glass, we'll take over monitoring and managing. We're plugging them into our SD-WAN edge, and we're managing the secure access to the internet. So if I have it from end to end and I can see that path, we're more than happy. So whatever makes sense for our customers, whether it's CBTS stays out of the underlay and you only want us providing VeloCloud overlaid to Check Point, we'll do that. If you want us providing an ease of management, but you've already sourced all the internet circuits and you don't want to rip those out just to put in new internet circuits under our billing ID, not a problem. And we'll take over responsibility. Or if you do want us to provide bandwidth in LTE so that you have a single source provider, we're more than happy to do so.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, we like to basically say you get the flexibility without being held hostage. So
yeah,
great examples of that, John.
Awesome. Well, I think that should bring us to a close today. I want to thank all the attendees for joining us. I'd like to remind you that part 2 of this conversation with the experts will be happening next week, August 20th at 2 Eastern. Thank you to the panelists for your time, and thank you for letting me be a name in the box and not a face in the box.
No problem.
Yeah, thank you, Raz, Mark. Really appreciate it. Thank you for everyone that joined.
Thank you, John and Mark. Yeah. Good to talk to you today.
You bet.
See you guys.